Okay, well, everybody, welcome to the Reality Whisperer Webcast. I am your host, Brad Johnson, and I'm so happy to be here tonight. This is the first guest I've had on the webcast in quite a few months. So, with Eric being here tonight, we're going to have some really amazing discussions taking place tonight as we're going to be talking about implants and the energy body. So, again, I want to thank everybody for being a part of Zoom webinars, as this is going to be the platform that I'm going to be using every 2 weeks for the Reality Whisperer webcast from now on. In 2 weeks' time, there will be another solo show where I'll be presenting some really juicy topics. And then next month, we'll see if I can get another guest that's going to come on board. I have a couple of guests on mind, but I'd say just keep in touch with Facebook, on my Facebook, because I have announcements of the guests that are going to come together. Firstly, before we get rolling, we're going to just do a couple of announcements. One announcement is that there is the upcoming webinar, which is called Harnessing the Force. And so this is going to be a continuation webinar that the previous webinar that I did, it's basically picking up where I left off in that. So that's basically reviving ancient mastery. But Harnessing the Force is going to be happening on Sunday, August 20th at 12 p.m. Pacific, 3 p.m. Eastern. And it's all about techniques to cultivating spiritual immortality. And so it's basically, again, just going much deeper to where last month's webinar left off. So if you guys are interested in signing up for that, there's going to be some incredible information and demonstrations and exercises and techniques about working into developing yourself into spiritual immortality. So this is going to be a really incredible webinar. It's going to be another big presentation like how Reviving Ancient Mastery was. So again, that's happening Sunday, August 20th at 12 p.m. Pacific, 3 p.m. Eastern. Just go to realitywhisperer.com. You'll find it on the homepage. Click on the poster, and you can register for the event. And of course, in 2 weeks' time will be the next Reality Whisperer broadcast as well, webcast. And I'm looking forward to some more juicy topics that will be coming together for that. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and introduce tonight's guest, and I'm really looking forward to having him. Eric and I were actually part of the In 5D event that happened in Seattle a couple of months back, and he had a really incredible presentation that took place, and we just had a great time together. And so I'm really happy to have him on board tonight. So I'm just going to give a little bit of an introduction here to Eric. After an intense energetic activation in 2012, Eric became aware of the implantation and parasitic construct in a very real way. His subsequent search for answers about this experience led him on a journey to self-discovery. This discovery, coupled with increasing real-world practice, allowed him to gain a deep understanding of how this other system works, how to identify the interferences and constructs, how to promote self-protection through daily practices, and most importantly, how to remove these false constructs from himself as well as others. Eric is constantly expanding his repertoire of tools. He currently implements a wide range of energetic tools, ranging from parasite implant removal, meridian clearing and balancing, crystalline organ rejuvenation, theta healing, soul fragment retrieval, remote lymphatic work, and golden light energy work. He also utilizes physical-based practices such as quantum pause breathing, reverse breathing, self-lymphatic massage, cycle stretching, Qigong, and meditation. As an ardent advocate of aiding the entire human race to achieve their full natural potential, Eric is called to teaching as many others as he can reach. As a receiver of this hidden esoteric knowledge, Eric considers it his duty, his life's purpose, to share this information with the world, to free all of humanity from the ravages of this system, and to help create a world filled with light. And of course, you can go to Eric's website. It is unleashingnaturalhumanity.com. And so I'm going to go ahead and invite Eric on. Eric, are you there?
Yes, sir. Hi.
Hello, Eric. Welcome to the Reality Whisperer Webcast. I'm doing great. It's really great to have you on. I've wanted to have you on for a while. I wasn't too sure if I was going to start the webcasts up again, but I decided to, and you're the first guest of the return of the Reality Whisperer Webcast, so I want to thank you so much for being here.
Thank
That is
you.
quite an introduction, man. That's a lot of stuff.
You know, it's actually
So,
pretty funny. The more I look at it, the bigger it's getting. So I'm just going to start saying that I'm just a guy figuring stuff out.
well,
So
see, that's why I called myself the Reality Whisperer, because there's just so many things that are happening at once. So I'm like, okay, just a little crunch title here for me to do.
yeah.
But that's incredible. I mean, really being able to put all of these things together. Was there a certain point where you started in saying, well, this is to be the first thing that I'll look into? And did it kind of just spawn from there, just kind of expand with all of these new services that you're offering?
Well, it was really interesting the way this all kind of started to begin with. There was an energetic activation that tuned me into the parasitic construct so that I could see it in other people and myself. And it started with me just removing them. And, you know, these things are keeping humanity in a very low vibrational state so that we can't even access these esoteric abilities that everybody has, you know. And so the further and further that we explored into this, it all just organically unfolded. I mean, there was no like, well, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, I'm going to do this. It's like I had everything drawn to me that was needed. And, you know, you sit with the energy for a little bit, you figure it out, it gives you a new awareness, you step into that awareness, and voila, there's like, you know, 15 different questions that all lead to another different awareness. And it's all, you know, it's a nonstop, ever expanding journey. It's always moving upward. So it's
Wow.
really fun, actually.
And of course, has been a really hot topic as it relates to implants, and it feels like there's been like, because I've talked to thousands of clients all over the world, and a lot of them have talked about implants and saying, do I have these implants with me? Are they always physical? What type of implants do people receive? What kind of implants have you seen through your work?
So I actually have only seen about maybe 3 physical implants the whole entire time I've been doing this, and I've worked on over 3,000 people to date. As far as I know, they stopped using the physical implants back in the early 80s. The physical implants were a precursor to the energetic and etheric implants that are on the scalar and the plasma frequencies. And so when they were trying to replicate these, they were actually trying to replicate something that was already in existence and something that had already been well shown and thought out, and the systems were very well established. And so, the physical ones are more like military and, like the secret space programs that we have that are human based, and them stepping out into their technology and figuring things out. Everything that I deal in is all energetic. It's all etheric bits of energy that are conscious, that are placed inside of the body to bring a very much lower vibrational state to the area, to block chi flow, and to keep abilities that everybody's got these energetic centers in their body. The third eye, the throat, the heart, the solar plexus, the sacral area, and the root. These are all energetic areas that actually do something when you activate them with enough chi flow. And so what they do is they keep those down. They'll cause physical pain in the area. They'll cause etheric implantation, kind of interference. When people hear implants, they automatically start thinking, like a big old computer chip in, the back of your head or something like that. And they're much more devious because you can't see them that easily. They're literally outside of visible light. And so that's pretty much what I deal in.
So with these physical implants, were they something that was reverse engineered? Could it be something that maybe like the Zedans or the Greys handed down to some of these military personnel to reverse engineer? And are they kind of like just like small little, like pills in that way as implants?
Yeah, pretty much. The only ones that I've ever seen were about maybe this big, and something along those lines right there. And they actually just emit a frequency. It's a dulling down frequency, and they're scalar technology. And so instead of using scalar waves and technology to actually boost the human experience, they're using it to dull down the sensitivity to even feeling this stuff. And so this is one of the reasons why, humanity thinks magic isn't real. It's because they can't feel it.
Exactly. So these emitters in that sense would represent a frequency that would bombard a lot of our vital body and almost numb it down almost into a state of atrophy.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Wow. So that's even my experience as well too. I haven't seen too many physical implants. I've talked to some people who have said they've had some. Some of them will also have marks on the skin as well too. Some of them will actually have like triangles or other particular types of geometrical implants. Have you seen those as well?
Yeah, that was actually the first physical implant that I came into contact with. It was 3 dots in a triangular pattern, and then underneath that there was a definite physical device that was creating an etheric disturbance that was blocking the whole entire kidney meridian and just sapping that poor lady of energy.
Now, were you able to deactivate that?
So these type of implants, they're really interesting because they're very high calibrated, and it's an engineering marvel. Honestly, they're very, very sophisticated with what they do. And so any type of disturbance to it can actually throw it completely off whack and, destabilize the whole entire field. And so what I do is I actually go into the molecular structure of that and I stretch the molecules out. And so it might go off only, 0.001 millimeters, but that when we're talking about these high calibration machines like that, it's enough to shut them down.
So it's basically just being able to impose a frequency on top of the implant itself. Now, is it possible to like move it around? Like, does the area in which the implant stay, like it's part, let's say for the idea of the chest, does it have to be there, or if it's moved around, would that basically disrupt its own vibrational frequency?
I honestly couldn't tell you. I've never actually been able to move one of these physical things around. I've just shut it down when I came across it. That was it.
Well, that works as well too. So that's kind of my feeling as well too, because as every organ within our body has basically a natural frequency, they would have to have it strategically placed in a certain area of the body to basically interrupt the flow or interrupt the meridian pattern, kind of like a kink of a hose in that way, right?
Yeah.
But again, a lot of people have been discovering are ethereal implants, basically almost like astro codes in that way too. What kind of ethereal implants have you discovered?
Oh, geez.
I'm sure there's quite a lot. So, yeah.
So one of the most common ones that I come into contact with that most people actually interact with is the one right here in the gallbladder meridian. The gallbladder meridian starts on the outside corner of the eye, and it goes through this zigzag pattern all the way down through the neck and all the way down into the feet. And this one actually sits up in here inside your brain, and it sinks into the, not like sink as in dropping in, but sinks as like sinks up to the flow. And so it manages to copy it. And so it literally starts to replicate your internal voice. We all have three voices that we use. We have the one that we hear in our heads when we're talking. We have the one that everybody outside the body hears from us when we're speaking. And then we have the one inside of our head that we actually think with. And so what it does is it sinks into that and it copies the frequency, and then it starts on this nonstop loop. And so just a really simple way to even know that you even have that is just give yourself like 30-40 seconds worth of silence with the intention of having your head completely quiet. If you cannot keep your head quiet during that time in a natural state without really trying to force things down, you've got something going on in that gallbladder meridian. That's one of the most common ones I run into. What's one of the more other common ones? The one in the solar plexus, actually. That one is really, really common. That one's always getting people in the confidence area. It's the solar plexus is the seat of the consciousness to where we have our confidence come from, our can-do attitude, our go get 'em, and so if you have like social anxiety disorders, like anxiety, panic attacks, things along those lines, what happens is it's an emotional disruption that happens right in the pit of the stomach, and it's often accompanied by a physical sensation of like burning or twisting or like a red hot knot in your stomach, a heaviness like a stone. And so these are common things that people feel quite a bit, but they never actually put two and two to the sensation of what is happening along with the emotion at the same time as being outside of them. They automatically, they claim it. They say, well, that's my anxiety, that's my nervousness, that's my social anxiety, my social disorders. And it's not. It's something that's coming from outside of them that was placed into there specifically to disrupt flow and keep communication closed, shut down. And that's another really common one. Oh, geez, what else do we have? We got stuff that blocks the flow from the microcosmic orbit through the acupuncture points in the spine, blocking the third eye up. We've got things that wrap around the heart that cause tension and tightness inside of the chest that actually makes it so it's hard to breathe, get a full breath. Because when you can get a full breath with no interference, a full deep inhale, that's actually where we get a lot of our chi power from, because it's all about the breath and the interaction with the body that way. And so one of the first things they do when these types of implants are coming in is to shut down the ability to take a full breath. And so people actually hit that 50% mark and think that's a full entire breath right there, when in fact that's it's just 50%. But how are you going to know unless you know until you experience it? That's kind of what this is all about.
One of the follow-up questions as well too is being able to detect if you do have, in that sense, any particular type of disruptions or implants contained within it. So basically just doing a lot of these common things, like you said, with the gallbladder meridian, being able to keep yourself internally quiet for a certain amount of time, and noticing that, is it basically you're referring like a repetition of thought forms that a person may experience that could be the result of that implant?
Definitely.
Interesting.
Definitely.
All right. Well, again, there is also the phenomenon known as targeted individuals as well too, where we basically have people that have basically been at the mercy of a lot of these kind of shadow agencies. And they'll use certain forms of frequency bombardments, sometimes externally as well too. Like they'll basically hide around the area of the house of a person and start blasting them with these particular types of frequencies as well too. So I've worked with quite a few different targeted individuals as well too. What is the big goal here? Like, what are these particular agencies attempting to do by putting these types of implants into people?
Well, it's not specifically agencies that are doing this in the human sense. This is more of an extraterrestrial, multidimensional thing. And the long story short is to keep humanity in a state of low vibratory emotional trauma resonance that it literally breeds trauma into the system. And so then we have these recurring cycles of victim predator mentality that, you know, you become a victim, so you turn into a predator. And it's literally programmed into this. You know, what we call human nature is not human nature. You know, the greed, the avarice, the jealousy, the hate that we have, that we see in the world around us, this is not something that humans naturally come by. And this is the agenda, the topic of topics that is keeping our world stuck in the situation that it is right now, enslaved to the Babylonian money magic, you know, stuck inside of these 9-to-5 jobs to where we can't, you know, use our creativity to actually go out and live our lives. You know, all these different types of programs that we look at, and when we think of it from a natural perspective, it makes no sense whatsoever. And yet the whole entire world is stuck inside of this. This is what this whole agenda is about. It's to keep us in these negative, low vibrational states. Now, why? It's because these entities, these creatures, the humans that are a part of this, the whole system that is set up, they use this as food. This is multidimensional energy that is a very low, dark vibrational state. And since these things are not of source, they need something that is not the bright love, light, compassion, love energy that we are supposed to be existing in a natural human state to begin with. And so they feed off of it. You know, this is their food. This is their battery charge. And unlike us, who are free energy generators, we can always take another breath and create more energy. They can't. You know, they have a finite amount of energy that they need to use. And granted, they've gotten very, very powerful over however long they've been doing this, but it's still a battery. We're not. We can always step up beyond that and go higher.
So would this be like an artificial intelligence in that way? That's basically constructing.
Definitely. Oh yeah, that's one of the aspects. It's so I find AI I'd say about maybe 20% of the time. So there's quite a bit out there.
Yeah. So kind of like the Archons, that people would say, almost like these kind of spider-like beings that have kind of cybernetic features to themselves.
Yes and no. The Archons, I honestly don't know if people are calling the same thing Archons when they come into contact with them. I have felt multidimensional consciousnesses that were much more advanced than the spider-like types of AI devices. And we're talking about things that are multidimensional. They're not just inside of this reality right here. They're a field that pervades the multiverse, and it literally is stretching into parallel realities. And so you might have, you know, quote, a targeted individual who in this lifetime right here, they are being attacked and their vibrations brought down specifically because as in a parallel life they're doing something like I'm doing, like you're doing. They're waking humanity up to these frequencies and these understandings, and more importantly, giving solutions to them and keeping themselves clean at the same time. And so they have to expend way more energy to bring somebody down who is well versed at their flowing their own chi and keeping themselves clear, as opposed to somebody who has no clue about it. Yet if they are the same person, you can drag that weight down in the multiverse and it brings that other person down by proxy. So, you know, I mean, it's really a much larger scale thing than we honestly thought it was in the beginning. And the more we look into this, the more we're realizing that it's an amazing system that they set up. It might be negative, it might be detrimental to humanity, but they have really, you know, they spent a lot of time figuring this out. But here's the really cool thing. The system is so sophisticated that there's never been anything anywhere near this level of sophistication in existence before, and yet we are still breaking out of it. We are still waking up. You know, you can't stop this. You can't stop this.
Well, what it always takes is the idea of a lack of knowledge, or, you know, the lack of that particular type of information that we're attempting to get. And this is what I've told people as well too, and saying that no matter how much sophistication may be in a state of manipulation, beings do this because they can't create the way humanity can create.
Exactly.
They can't be empowered the way humanity is empowered. So basically it sounds like, again, there's multiple constructs of multiple different beings, whether it be jinn or whether it be archon or whether it be reptilian, etc., that have many of these particular types of agendas, basically to try and siphon energy so that they can basically have the quote unquote power of the gods.
Yes, sir.
Well,
That's
there you
exactly
go.
it. Mm-hmm.
And that's it. And it's amazing how much people are starting to realize this. And the whole idea is that they feel that they're being powerless to it as well too. They feel that, well,
Yeah.
you know what, when we go into the body, as soon as we get into the body, we're implanted. We have these ethereal implants that come into the body, and we might as well just say it's game over. And I'm like, well, hold up, right? You're a creator being. And as a creator being, you can create, and that's not something that these beings can do. They manipulate. It's kind of like giving them a bunch of Lego and saying, here you go, build all these sophisticated structures and blocks. But with humans, in that sense, they would say, here's more Lego, here's more Lego, here's more Lego. And then they're like, what the hell? How do you do that? We can't do that. So basically, it feels like a lot of these parasitical beings in that way that create these kind of implants are just maneuvering or manipulating the aspect of the energy to try and create these particular blocks in our way. But us as creators, when we realize our full potential, are able to basically geometrically reassign everything back into its original blueprint.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And
Excellent.
that's why they're here. They can't create, they have to replicate. And so they have literally trapped the creators into a system that makes them think that they are not creators. And so then they are taking all of our information, our ideas, and they are literally using it for their own ends. It's we're working against ourselves right now. We got to take
Exactly.
back.
And it feels like there's an intense time where this is happening much more on a larger scale, where if we look maybe back 50 to 100 years, it wasn't so bad. But now, because we're going through this huge density shift, it feels like there's a lot more activity with these implants.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. So that's showing us right there, everybody, that we're going through an immense amount of change. And if we didn't have change on this planet, we wouldn't be seeing all the stuff that was basically in chaos and turmoil right now. And that's basically the prelude to letting you know that something is shifting, something is helping us to move into a new density of awareness, is when you notice that things are not acting the way they're supposed to, that basically it's like you're after tuning up a dial and say, no, we're going to make this frequency vibration much more intense because we're losing our grasp with people. And so we need to amp up the machines up into level 10, and it can't go any higher than that. Once they're amped up to the fullest level, there's nothing they can do. Those systems break down, and they say, oh my God, we're done. We have to pack everything up. We got to go home, right? Mm-hmm. So it feels like that's very much where we're headed, is seeing the complete downfall of a lot of these programs that are basically amped up to the highest volume possible, ready to collapse under its own weight.
Exactly. I mean, just look at the past, even just 50 years, it has, the level of technology, the level of consciousness expansion has exploded just in the last 50 years. And what this is doing is the dark is literally trying to hijack the manifestations of the collective consciousness's abilities being woken up. Like the internet, that was there's no telling where that came from. That immediately just kind of appeared like a 100th monkey effect, with a bunch of people trying to immediately come up with that same idea at the same time. And that right there, that was the collective consciousness forcing the connectivity into the reality around us, because they wanted us all compartmentalized and separate so that we couldn't have conversations like this. And so with the advent of the internet, suddenly we were all sharing information from around the world. And so it was able to grow and manifest into what it is. And so what they were doing is they kept on, putting little things into our way that completely and totally shut down the understanding of what we've actually got going on with this ascension plan. Because like, say for instance, how often have you had, just a thought about somebody, and then 5 seconds later they're calling you, or they're texting you, or they're sending you a message on the internet, and it was a hijack trying to keep us away from understanding how we are making these connections. Because with this technology in the way, we can't make this organically, because what we're doing is we're saying, oh, well, we made that instant connection right there. Of course I was thinking about them, and so it's like a little excuse, it's all these things are happening right there in our face. And yet we've got all these little distractions and hijacks that are programming us into a state of where we don't recognize what is actually happening. We see it happening, but it's all technology, and so we're just placing that over in that technology sector, and we're not looking at the organic technology where this is actually originating from. And so, I mean, just the past 50 years with the expansion that we've had right there, it's literally them scrambling as fast and as hard as they can to keep us from ascending out of their system. So.
Yeah. And I think that's also it as well, too, is because so much of the collective consciousness has been so allured by technology that the manifestation of how we're all connected will come to that particular olive branch. And then I think once more people start to realize how we are all interconnected organically, then there will be a lot more invitation to create more intuitive aspects of how we are all connected. Now, that's where I think we're starting to see a lot more in people. Even people who believe they're not even on a spiritual journey will have these empathic feelings. They'll have these intuitive sensations and saying, oh my goodness, I was having this kind of conversation with a friend of mine and it felt so real. Was that real? And it feels like we're just not used to that yet because we're so used to the digital platforms and saying that here is the internet collective consciousness. And that's basically how we are showing our own connection to each other, is first starting off digitally as a stepping stone and then moving up into the next intuitive organic platform after that.
That's exactly what's going on. Exactly what's going on.
Awesome. Well, let's talk a little bit more about techniques that people can do in that sense. Maybe they are able to detect if there is an implant within them and what they may be able to do. So let's say if a person basically did come up to you and say, well, Eric, how can I check, myself? Is there a technique that I can personally use should I notice that any particular type of implant may be within me to help deactivate?
Oh yeah, definitely. There's quite a few things that you can do. One of the easiest ways to start lifting your vibratory resonance and to start moving chi through the body is to use the blood in the body and just direct it with intention. And so one of the easiest things that I know how to do is take people through breathing into their feet and then into their hands. And so, like, especially after a session, once we remove all of these things, you have a really clear connection to this chi sensation. But beforehand, before you can even get to that point, you want to know, well, do I have anything or not? So a simple understanding of the way that the breath actually moves inside of the body is kind of key here. So let's go ahead and try to describe this here. So when you're breathing into the body, it's not just air going into the lungs. What we have to recognize is that we are multidimensional, we are etheric, and we have many, many platforms of energy that we are actually working with. We're connected directly to source, all the way anchored inside of this 3D reality here, and we can affect everything all the way up. Now, the breath is the only thing inside the body that's part of the autonomic nervous system that we can actually interact with. Well, unless you go through like a whole bunch of training, like there's monks that can stop their heart and stuff like that. But, a lot of people aren't at that level yet. And so, we have the digestion, the reproduction, the pulmonary system, and multiple things with like the breathing, that this is all automatic. And yet the breathing is the only one that we can actually say, okay, well, I'm going to stop this here. I'm going to start that there. I'm going to hold on to this here. And it's the only part of the nervous system that we can actually interact with on that level. And so when you start to control the breath, when you start to take that short, fast breathing, all that chest breathing, and start to slow it down and lengthen it out, and more importantly, use the abdomen, that is where we start to open up the chi flow. And so what you do is you have to go into abdominal breathing for at least 5 to 10 minutes, start really pulling yourself back into a state of restfulness, a state of awareness internally, and pay attention to the sensations that are going on inside. And once you go through this abdominal breathing, now abdominal breathing, this is nothing more than just popping your stomach out when you're breathing so that you fill up the whole entire bottom of the lungs and you're not leaving that carbon dioxide in that lower third of the lungs right there. And then, kind of squeezing your stomach back to your spine on the exhale. And so once you go through 5 to 10 minutes of this, it's really simple to start pushing blood and oxygen and nutrients and minerals with the breath. And so what I do is I have my clients, after we go through a session, I'll have them breathe down into their right foot. And so what I mean by that is when you take an inhale or an exhale, however you feel more comfortable with it, because you can use both. I use like the inhalation. It's almost like I'm opening up a vacuum down to wherever I'm breathing to, and then the blood fills it. And the exhale, it's like I'm pushing things through. And so I'll have them breathe into their foot, 5, 6, 7 times. And what you feel is when you start to do this, there's actually a river of sensation that you start to actually tune into, and that's the chi. That's the conscious blood that is in the body being moved through the body, because blood is synonymous with chi and chi is synonymous with blood. And so if you can't feel the chi flow, move the blood flow. If you can't feel the blood flow, move the chi flow. And so they work together hand in hand. And so I'll have them breathe into that 5, 6, 7 times until they start to really feel that opening up, the foot filling up with blood, the tingling, the sensation, the warmth. And then I have them compare it to the left side. When you compare it to the left side, you really start to recognize how much you actually changed in sensation in the right. And so then I'll have them do it into the left as well. And then once we do that, I'll have them put their hands in front of them, either the chest or the solar plexus level, and start breathing into both of the hands, into the palms. And what this is doing right here is just by moving that conscious blood, you're charging this magnetically, electromagnetically, chemically. Everything is getting charged inside of this, and you're actually projecting out an electromagnetic gravitic construct that this is a chi ball. And so just by breathing into the hands and having them near each other, you can start to press in on it and feel this ball of chi right here. And so this gives you the basic understanding of how to move chi through the body. And so once you have this right here, it's really simple to light it up like the sun and take a deep breath and expand it into the body and breathe it in. Once you can start moving stuff around like this on that level, you start feeling like, hey, I can't breathe into this. Hey, I can't breathe into that. You know what? This light doesn't turn on right here. It did for a second, and then it immediately went out. What's going on here? You know? And so it's all about recognizing where the flow is not and where the flow is. And so everything isn't an implant. Like if you find a blockage in the body, oftentimes there's a lot of stagnant chi that people have inside their bodies just from toxicity.
Emotionally entangled and yeah.
Exactly. Exactly. You know, when we've got all kinds of different blockages that can happen, you know, mental, emotional, psychological, neurological, energetic,
electromagnetic frequencies. Yeah.
Yes,
ELFs.
sir.
Yeah.
Yeah. All kinds of things that can happen, but the breath and the chi consciousness can actually open up everything. And so it doesn't matter where this blockage is, you can move it through. And so when you're trying to figure out if you have implantation or not, the simple breath up the spine, up the back of the spine, all the way to the top of the head, and then down the front again, and connect that into the internal microcosmic orbit. That'll let you know right away if you've got something, because almost 100% of the time, people can't take a breath up their spine and down the front because their internal microcosmic orbit has been shut down. That microcosmic orbit, that flow from the governing vessel up the spine to the conception vessel all the way down, that powers everything. Everything hooks into that. We've got all of our major organ meridians, we've got the secondary meridians, and more importantly, we've got everything right in the center. You got your third eye, your throat, the heart, the solar plexus, the sacral, and the root. Those are all right in the center of that, and that's what actually powers it. So looking from the side, you see up the spine and down the front here, and what's going on is you have little loops that power everything going through, and it's those acupuncture points on the back of the spine and on the front of the body that more often than not are clogged up and targeted. And so it's often really hard to clean these, to even see these things, to even recognize that you can breathe through the body to begin with. And just, you know, just not having a connection to that is indicative of having implantation, because I don't care who you are and how much damage is done to your body. As soon as you don't have these interferences on you, your body immediately shoots up massively in the vibrational octave scale, and you immediately feel your chi. And so if you can't breathe into your body, it's a simple way of recognizing that there is blockage here. Now, whether or not that's an implant, that remains to be seen. You know, that comes with experience and recognizing and doing the Qigong and figuring out where you can flow through your body, and where it's hard, where it's dense, where it's stuck, and where it flows easily. And, you know, it's like a long answer, but it's very simple. Just learn how to breathe.
So basically, yeah, in that way, like say, for example, if people do have emotional entanglements, and that could be part of what they're getting caught up with, and being able to compare that with, let's say, some type of etheric ET implants in that way, how would a person be able to tell between those two? Is there a certain diversity between those two?
Oh yeah, definitely. So the emotional body, the way that connects into the body itself is in the heart space right here. And so you have like a full-blown, you know, human-sized emotional body, and you can have different types of swirls or emotional disturbances that are inside of it that actually cause pain inside the body. And, you know, it throws the neurological systems off, the muscles get tight, things tense up. But the most telling factor is when you are opening these up and trying to clean them out, is that you will feel the emotional resonance. And a lot of people have like shame, anger, depression, you know, like hate, you know, just like these things that are buried inside of organs or inside of the musculature. And when you open them up, the pain immediately disappears, and they have like this emotional purging to where they feel the emotion fairly intensely, and I have them breathe into it. Actually, I think you were the one who showed me how to do that, is breathing into the emotion until it starts to pull itself out, and then it goes top heavy, and then you start breathing it out.
Yeah, with the light circuitry attunements, that's all about, you know, it's working together with the emotional body, knowing that when it's stuck, you notice that the emotion is reacting to it, and then being able to put a lot of positive reinforcement into it. So, but yeah, I mean, it's really interesting because, again, a lot of the people that I've talked to who have had these kind of implants as well too, will just notice that they will actually be able to call in intervention. And this is where I've actually talked about the intervention fleets, or Archons has as well too, is just being able to use this symbol like this. And people who have used that have actually gone to sleep 3 o'clock in the morning to 5 o'clock in the morning. They suddenly feel this other presence. Sometimes it'll be like a probe that'll actually come in and start doing a scan with them, like a green light. Will actually just start scanning them from head to toe. Another person who I've just talked to recently had these screens actually coming in and giving them all this data about the type of implants that they have. They wake up the next morning, they feel like 20 pounds lighter, right? So there's like all of this kinks. It's very intricate. It's almost like if you can see astrally, you can see like almost like this tar or other particular forms of
like
nasty energy.
stretching.
Yeah, exactly. Trying to pull this out. It's like this, like a tar or a slime or something like that that's coming out of this, and that there's actual psychic surgery taking place, and that these intervention fleets will actually come in. Sometimes, I guess, depending upon the person, they'll actually take you up onto their ship. They'll start removing a lot of this gunk, and then they'll put you back in bed. But a lot of them, in that sense, can actually be just astral implants. It's kind of like looking at the codes of the matrix, right? And you're just basically rewriting the codes or taking some certain codes out and replacing it in that way, almost kind of like DNA rearranging. It's quite interesting.
Oh, it's really interesting stuff. And, it's like we're all just kind of pioneering this. We don't really know what is going on. We have to explore these systems to understand them. And, some people have a better understanding than others who can then impart it to others. Myself, yourself included. We are not special in any sense in the fact that we are doing something superhuman. We're doing something that anybody can do. It's just you have to actually step into it and start doing it.
You have the education, right? The education will come to you intuitively, because if I was to look at a lot of this stuff just with my ego mind, the ego mind would not be able to get it. It wouldn't understand exactly all these intricacies of the codes, of the astro codes, of the gunk that's inside and all that stuff. But when you surrender to yourself and you let the flow come in, you become educated. It's like sitting in a classroom. And you're all of a sudden knowing a lot of these things you did not know before. So this is, again, what I'm noticing a lot. But again, I notice this a lot through social media, where people say they have headaches or they're just getting hit with all these emotional states. And then they start doing something like Qigong, or they start doing something in meditation or yoga, and then they notice how they feel better. Well, again, that's not just the idea of the thanks to the physical. That's a lot of your own energy components being brought together. And that's kind of the leeway of us moving into the energy body. How can we take care of the energy body? What is it that we can do on a daily basis to really help liven this energy body up for peak health?
So on my YouTube channel, I've got quite a few tutorials for, there's 3 specific Qigong moves that I absolutely love. There's one called lifting the sky, chasing the moon, and then leveling mountains.
Yeah,
and
got all those
leveling
ones myself too.
Good stuff. They're absolutely amazing. I love them. And there's other Qigong specifically designed for, like making your hands strong, for strengthening the liver, strengthening the heart. There's things that are specifically designed for pinpointed things, but these right here, these are blanket coatings right here. These open up the central channels, the governing vessel, the conception vessel, and they are just phenomenal. And actually chasing the moon, it can rejuvenate you, it can make you younger. And me myself, people mistake me for like my mid-20s all the time, and when I was in 20s, people used to mistake me for my early 30s, and so I literally have kind of rewrote that understanding of who I am and like what age actually is, because I felt old, and so I was old. And so as you're opening up the flow inside your body, and you're bringing blood and oxygen, nutrients, minerals, and chi to everywhere that you need it, you're cleaning these organs out, and you're giving them specifically something that is actually good for them instead of something toxic. We've got so many toxins in our food, our environment, our air, our water, and this is a way to energetically cleanse yourself and alchemically transmute that toxicity into something that's actually bioavailable for you. So the Qigong specifically, that's one of the best things you can do. Working with gold light. Now, a lot of people do energy work, but they still use visible light colors. Visible light colors are the 7 rainbow colors: the red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet. And when you look at the electromagnetic spectrum, visible light is only 2.3% of the entire electromagnetic spectrum. However, when you take the sunlight and you break it apart with a prism, you can see all of those colors inside of it, and yet it has the other full spectrum frequency of that resonance that is coming from that golden sunlight too. So when I say use gold light, I'm not saying be exclusionary. What I'm saying is be all inclusive. Take everything and use it all at once, because 2.3%, when you divide that into 7, the red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet, you're literally putting yourself in about 0.33% of the actual entirety of energy.
Small fractions.
Very, very small fractions. And so that's the trick right there, is to use energy that is use chi that is attuned to light that is the full spectrum, and then you can see these things that are outside of it. When you use this light to flow through your body, when you use this light to shield yourself, when you put protective eggs up around you that are connected directly into source and into the planet, this is a really easy way to make your environment so high vibratory that it's not impossible for them to affect you, but it takes a lot of energy for them to break in through that. And so and they're always, especially in these days right now, to where they have extreme dark production that is, they are getting people around the planet just pouring massive amounts of darkness into these systems, and yet they're still breaking down because the people who are recognizing that they don't want to be sick and tired, they're sick of it, they're hating feeling the hate, they're so sad of feeling sad, they're recognizing that they can turn the light on inside and start looking for things that make them smile instead of things that make them frown. And we're literally taking away their power. And so anybody who stands on their own 2 feet and says, you know what, I am not the product of my environment, I am me, and I want to be happy, what they're doing is they're taking away the power from 2,000-3,000 people who are just raging and angry and depressed, and so we are literally shifting the balance just by stepping into a place to where we want to be happy, to where we're bright inside, to where we're not looking for the darkness, and more importantly, holding ourselves to a higher standard. You can't be part of the system if you want to ascend past it. So
you got it. And that's what I've also mentioned just in my previous webinar as well too, is working more with the golden light, actually working with the Dantian centers and not just the chakras. Sir. Whereas the chakras represent seals, and they're important, but again, it's all part of our visibility of the dimensions that we're familiar with, again, about the 2.3%. And that the rainbow body can be powerful, but that's only putting you through a prism of a certain degree. And that the rainbow body really cannot compare if you're looking at the golden immortal body in that way, because that's the pure spectrum. That's again why looking at the dichotomy, that golden is the gold is the most valuable substance on our planet, right? And that's why it's seen so valuable, because it's the pure substance. It's the elixir to the embodiment of everything that we know. And so being able to work with the lower Dantian, middle Dantian, upper Dantian, the central meridian, and being able to work with this golden energy, you're actually being able to connect with all bands on the universal level, rather than just playing with the chakra centers that just connect with the rainbow body.
Yes, exactly. The Dantians, that was actually, so my experience with the Dantian centers, it was, I heard something about chakra removal. Now, chakra removal, when I first heard about this, I thought to myself, that's the stupidest thing I have ever heard. Those are embedded in the lymphatic systems, the endocrine systems. If you take those out of the body, you're going to die. This is stupid, and that was immediately my first gut reaction to it. And it just stuck with me. And so like 6 months later, I saw this article where they actually explained how it's not exclusionary, it's full frequency energy that you're embodying. And so you're bringing your red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo chakra system back into oneness. You're bringing it back into wholeness. And I wasn't able to do it the first time that I had tried this. And it literally took me about 6 months of doing yoga every day, sun gazing, walking meditations, and Reiki energy work to actually get into the state to where I could even allow this transformation to take place. Because I'll tell you right now, going from 2.3% into full spectrum frequency energy, it was an explosion. My heart literally exploded out of my body, and I had a bubble that was about this big coming out of my chest that was about 40 degrees, 35 degrees hotter than the ambient temperature around me. And it was so hot that it was burning my chin. Yet with my eyes closed, I could see everything around me on a much, much more in-depth understanding level of the matrix code. And I could literally see and feel everything, and it got to the point to where well, when that happened, I had one of those gallbladder meridian implants, and it clicked loose in the side of my head, and it got blown back this way. And so that was like my first introduction to the systems to begin with, because I mean, it was like, oh my God, there's something in my head screaming in demon speak. What the heck is this? And then I could grab it, and it stretched, and then, and that was my first introduction to all of this. And so when I did the chakra integration, well, I don't call it a removal, because you're not removing anything, you're integrating it back in.
Yeah, that'd be my feeling as well too. Yeah,
exactly. And so my root turned into the lower Dantian with the sacral center right below the belly button. My solar plexus and my throat merged in the heart space, and then my third eye and the crown became the upper Dantian. And so it's a very simplistic system. It's almost like going from blue screen DOS into like a modern day operating system, to where you just point and click, and then everything takes care of it. Now, the other centers are still there, where the other chakra centers are. They are all energetic machinery, but they are not like, I don't have to go and focus into the root to do things with the root. I can focus into the heart space and have something that needs to be done in the third eye, the throat, the heart, the solar plexus, the sacral, and the root at the same time. And it's just a boom, there it is, it's done. And so this is one of the reasons why I can even do the work that I do, is because I am working with this frequency here, and my whole entire body has been shifted off of this 7 chakra center rainbow color into the golden frequency Dantians. And so it's it's literally thousands of times stronger. And, you know, this is actually one of the reasons why I don't do chakra removals for people. I teach people how to remove them for themselves, because if you're at a state where your meridians are, say, quote, a garden hose, and we put a fire hose worth of pressure through it, you know, boom, that's all,
Yeah.
that's all no good, you know? So that's one of the reasons why I actually teach people how to do it themselves, and I don't do it for people. So
Right. That's kind of the feeling I'm getting. Like the intuitive vision is like you have 3 golden suns inside your body. As you
exactly.
start to exercise those golden suns, basically the chakras will start to merge with them, and you'll basically create a type of bondage. And then the 7 chakras will actually interact together with the golden suns, and now they become more part of the primary aspect of your focus now. And so basically you're no longer having to concern yourself about the 7 seals, because really all the chakra centers are seals. They're
Yes.
just bonding us together into this physical reality that represent the color ray frequency that we're familiar with, the 2.3%. But looking beyond that aspect, and you start going into the golden ratios in that sense, then you're seeing the 100% reality. So that's kind of my feeling from what I was doing, and that's what I was getting a lot more of a pull to focus more on the Dan Qians, because as you start to do that, these suns actually start to come alive, and they just start to absorb the chakra energy. And the feeling I'm getting is that removal is not even necessary. You're just integrating, you're bonding. It's kind of like what you were saying, is that you're seeing an upgrade. You're going from DOS system to a complete, you know, Windows upgraded format, you know, Windows 20 or something like that.
Yeah,
but just being able to see this integration take place. And yeah, that's what I talked about even in the last webinar that I did, which was Reviving Ancient Mastery, is getting past the feeling of the chakra centers. The chakra centers are kind of elementary. If you get really good with that, you know, you'll have some good activations that are taking place, and it's helping you in that way. But really, when you're getting to more of the advanced stuff, you're looking into the Dantian centers and working more with the golden energy. So that's again great advice to share with another.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Eric. This has been a really great conversation. I think what we're going to do right now is we're going to go into Q&A. So we do have one question that's in the Q&A section right now. As we're also live on YouTube, I invite anybody on YouTube who wants to ask any questions to Eric or myself. Just feel free to put it into the live chat, and I'll be checking YouTube for the live chat. But again, for everybody here, the 36 people that are here, if you guys have any questions for Eric or myself, feel free to use the Q&A button. So we have one question here from Mary. Mary asks, I definitely had 2 rice-sized implants put in the top part of the base of my left thumb overnight around the holidays last year. They are deeper in and a little bit lower after I was called on in a webinar with an entity remover healer. Said he took away any negativity they may have had. I feel them give me pain sometimes. I wonder what put them there in that particular way. Have you heard of the rice implants? I guess that's what she's asking. Rice-sized implants.
The rice-sized implants, yeah, definitely. Usually those are placed inside of the fingertips or inside of the toes where the meridians start or stop. And specifically the thumb, that's the lung meridian right there. So what I would do is I would look for any type of lung infections or tightness of breath or anything like that, and see if those symptoms correspond right there. Because more often than not, it's you know, just figuring out where these energy systems work, where they are, and then seeing what this is doing. Why is it doing that? And then reverse engineering that. And so, you know, the lung meridian, it runs in a pathway up the arm right here. And so you can do something like catch it right up here and then push the chi all the way down through and then just kind of dislodge this. Because what they do is they hook into blockage. And it could be any type of blockage. It might be physical toxicity. It might be an injury. It might be an emotional type of scarring. It might be psychological. And so, you know, you just want to dissolve the blockage, and it doesn't matter how you are doing that as long as you're breathing through that, because it's almost like you're just draining the swamp. You've got mud and you need to clean it out. So the chi is the water that goes through and it washes it out. And as soon as you don't have any blockage there, these things are super easy to pull out. You know, you don't want to start stretching them and, like, you know, pulling on them or anything like that, because what happens when you start stretching them, more often than not, they start to break into pieces and you're leaving pieces out. And so you want to make sure that they just have nothing to grab a hold. And one of the easiest ways to do that is just, you know, stay emotionally centered. You know, don't allow toxic emotions into your body. If you feel yourself frowning, start looking for things that make you smile, you know, and the more that you're doing this, the more you're training your body not to respond in these ways. Now, if you have like physical damage or injuries or anything like that, this works the same way too. It's not as fast because the physical body is one of those things that it lags, I guess you could say. The energy is really quick, the physical body is not. But if you are putting the intention into cleaning this out and healing it every day, yeah, that's what's going to happen. You're going to start cleaning it out and healing it.
That's great as well too. Yeah, I've never heard of the rice implants. So that's again quite fascinating. So thank you again, Mary, for your question. One thing I'll add on to it as well too is the next webinar that I'm going to be doing is harnessing the force. Basically, what I'm going to be teaching people is organ encryption, and basically this is actually taking a bit of a slice out of the ancient Taoist practices in what they refer to as the fusion of the 5 elements. What they basically use is a geometry known as this, and this is the Bakwa, the Pakwa, I should say. And the Pakwa represents this 8-directional platform where there is a certain flow of yin and yang energy as well too. And what they do is they put these particular types of geometries in centers of the body. So the idea of the organs, lymphatic system, glands, etc. Basically what happens if there's any types of intrusions that come through, it basically gets caught up like a spider's web. And any particular etheric implants that actually come in there can actually be programmed to be instantly vaporized. So this is what I'm going to be teaching and harnessing the force once we get into that as well too. So this is something I wanted to add. And I've actually discovered what's known as astral technology or astral creations as well too. And what I've discovered is that you can actually create astral machines. And what you do is you actually create an anchor within physical reality. So if that's like a drawing of a diamond, if it's like a little rock with a symbol on it, for example, this is your anchor in actually being able to activate astral technology, put areas within your body that are astrally encrypted, and being able to help with your chi flow, helping with encryption to keep out any kinds of parasitical energies, actually helping to heal sophisticated diseases as well too. So this is something I've stumbled upon really thanks to Adronis as well. And it's just really amazing about what we can actually do in the astral realms and seeing us build these kind of very intricate devices and actually have them tethered to the physical realm. Now, have you also experienced that in your work in regards to the aspects of astral technology?
That's really interesting. So I haven't actually made any type of machines. What I do is I make astral consciousness. And so one of the easiest things that I can equate this to is Harry Potter, the Patronus charm. Right. You got the Dementor coming for you and they have to think a happy thought and then they blast out a light being, you know, that's kind of one of the things that I do. All my stuff's always gold though. So I've got like, you know, gold animals running around. And so, I mean, one of the things that I really enjoy doing is making like a golden lion to protect the house, you know, stuff like that. Like chemtrails, Sierra actually was the one who came across this one. She says, well, why don't we, you know, just like open a portal for like bottom feeders to come out and clean out the toxicity? I was like, well, what kind of bottom feeders? And she's like, well, I don't know, like crabs or, you know, crustaceans, you know, stuff that eats the garbage off the bottom of the ocean. Like, fine, why not? So we opened up a connection to source and like, it was crazy. We had golden crabs running through the sky for about 4 hours afterwards. And like, the sky was bluer than blue could be. And like, it was all natural clouds and you could see the ring of chemtrails completely and totally around the town. Like it's really interesting what you can do. As for anchors, I have not actually consciously done something like that, but now that you're talking about it, I actually have a staff that I have a walking stick that I carved out of a piece of redwood when I was in the redwoods, and I've just been carrying it around with me everywhere, and I absolutely love holding on to it during sessions because it just absolutely grounds me, and it gives me a different level of understanding because I'm tapping through the plant kingdom as well. And now, like as soon as you said that, I immediately thought about my staff because I've got like a little organite pendant about that big I've gotten on the front right there, and that's the place where the energy kind of anchors itself in. So I've always said that like the energy anchors in there. So you know, I guess I have been making stuff like that too. So.
Yes, that's right. It's also what's known as Astro Guardians. So basically, what you're doing is you're creating thought forms and actually putting it in place to these particular astral technologies that you create. So you could have like a big masculine warrior, right? You know, slicing an intruder down with a sword or something like that, or you could have dogs like pit bulls attacking it in that way. You can actually have guardians that actually protect your own organs. This is actually even in Taoist tradition as well too, is that they would have children and they would protect the innocence of the heart, or they would have animals to basically fight off any particular types of flu or influenza or anything like that nature. And you can actually program it directly into your body as well. So this is what we're going to be doing in Harnessing the Force, is looking into all of these types of encryptions, working with these type of astro guardians and astro influencers of high vibration as well too. I've just stumbled upon this chestnut of astro creations, and I'm planning to make an entire course of it as well too. So again, a lot of what you're saying here just kind of like rings a bell and so, oh yeah, that's kind of what I'm doing now with the astro creations. But I like the idea of
I'm definitely going to be Well, I'm going to be definitely tuning into the next 2 weeks webinar
Yeah,
because
on the 20th. Yeah.
well, that's really interesting because like what you've been saying right here, it's something that I have kind of like started to explore, but not really had the time to. So I mean, if you're already doing this work right here, I'm just gonna jump on board.
We'll have to collaborate together, man. Because I love the idea of like what Sierra was talking about
Yeah.
with the crabs as well and all that stuff. And for those of you who don't know, Sierra is Eric's wife, and she's lovely. So we had really great conversations back in the N5D event. I also remember specifically that you were working on one person as well too, in regards to implants, and you're actually helping to move it around the area of the body, like saying, okay, where can I put this? Can you explain that situation about what was happening when you were going through that kind of healing with her?
So that's actually not moving the implant around in the body. What I was doing is there was a buildup of musculature and nervous system tension that was in the area, and so when you the body, the way that the muscle fascia actually works with itself, you can have places that are deficient. They're not getting enough energy, and you can have places that are overloaded. This is actually a modality called Jinshin-Do. You have Kyo and Jitsu. Kyo is too much. Jitsu is not enough. And Kyo, like when you place your hand over it. So say, for instance, right here is the imbalance, and I place my hand over it. It feels like it's pushing up. It's like it's too much. It's like hot. It's inflamed. And so like Jitsu, like it's almost like it's sucking it in. It's like hollow. It's like if you were to have like a metal sphere and you think it's heavy and you go to pick it up and find out it's hollow, you might accidentally throw it. Like that's the kind of feeling that it has. And so what you want to do is you hook into where it's too much, and then you find the place where it's too little. And so what I'll do is I'll hook into it and I'll ask the body, where do you need this? And so it'll give me either an organ or it'll give me a meridian line. And more often than not, you can always put them into the central channels. That's a place that it's an easy way to put them in. And you've got multiple pressure points on the body where you can just hook them into the central channels. But I'll always ask, is there something deficient? Do you need this energy here? And so the body will just kind of give me a little spot, and it'll be like, oh, my liver. And so I'll go and I'll hook it into the liver, and so when you hook into the strange flow meridians, the strange flow meridians are they're movable, and they don't exist until you actually use them. And so it's nothing more than hooking like a connection here to a connection there, and then it's like, this is too little, this is too much, and you want to balance the scales in. And so that's I wasn't moving implants around. I always just take those out. There's no good that they can do inside the body, but the body's own natural energy, it might just be stuck in an area and need a pathway out. And so you can actually feel that when it happens, because say you've got like somebody's been trying to massage your shoulder, trying to get it to let go, and yet it's still right up here, that's most likely energetically or emotionally caused. And so just by tapping into that musculature on that level and then moving it from a place that's too much to a place that's too little, you balance it out, and all of a sudden, boom, everything drops and it feels great. And you're like, what? How did that happen? And it's like, oh, I'm just moving chi through your meridians. It's okay.
So just balancing the scales in that way.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. All right, well, we have a question here from Natasha. And Natasha asked a really good one here. Once we remove the implants, do they often or ever come back?
Yeah, okay, so it's when you get rid of an implant correctly means that you have opened up a connection to source and you have sent it to source so that it can no longer be in your reality. That one is gone forever. The problem is that they have breeding pits where they are literally creating these organic thought forms inside of stagnant ley lines or deep underground military bases. And so there's always more to take place. And so it's all about when like you come into contact with people, like physical contact, emotional contact, you can transfer energies in this way because you have an energetic connection, and then so something else can come into your field. If it sees a place where there is something not there, it can immediately come in and find its way in if you don't know how to protect yourself. This is why energetic hygiene is so important. And I mean, even me myself, if I'm not paying attention, I can get something. I'll notice it right away. I'd be like, oh, wow, that's heavy. Ow, what is happening here? And I'll have to pull it out, but it can happen. The trick is you need to be able to get rid of them completely and totally. And more importantly, get rid of the entities that are doing this. They don't just come popping into the body randomly unless you come into contact with somebody who's got something already, they've got extra and they can hand them off, the entities, it's literally, if you don't know how to get rid of these things, if you don't know how to do the contract revocations, if you don't know how to follow the energy back and wrap that up in the chi and then send that to source as well, it's literally like you're blind and somebody keeps walking up and putting stickers on you. You can take the stickers off all you want, but until you grab the hand and dip the dude down, you're not going to get rid of the guy.
That's right.
And it's all about just recognizing where they come from and stop being a symptom-based mentality and start going for the solution to the problem, where this is coming from. And so there's also other implants that are multidimensional in nature, and these are, we kind of touched on this earlier, like say for instance somebody is doing the same type of work that we're doing in a parallel life, and you aren't following that pathway in this lifetime. What's going on is oftentimes they might have something that is going to affect them through the multidimensional field. And so if you remove it, it's not just a device, it's a field. And so there might be 15, 20 different versions of yourself that this is affecting. And so you'd have to go into the multidimensionality to feel how it spreads out and connects into everybody, and remove that as a field to get rid of that thing. Because those right there, man, they were giving me just conniption fits. Like, what the heck? Why is this back? Are you kidding me? I don't see where this is coming from.
It's kind of like sometimes we'll get weary of that, and sometimes we'll drop the ball in that way. And there's a certain vibratory energy that you need to be in alignment with for this to maintain itself on a healthy level. And that's kind of the same thing I discovered with Astro Creations or Astro Technology. You have to constantly maintain yourself and make sure that you're still maintaining that type of energy for all the internal systems and configurations that you do for yourself to stay intact. So that definitely makes sense about keeping the ball together in that way.
Yeah.
Great. Excellent. Well, thank you very much, Natasha, for your question. We have one here on YouTube, and one question here. Infinite Ando asks, how do we experience the golden body?
How do we experience the golden body? Okay, so anybody who's ever moved energy before, anybody who's ever done Reiki, anybody who has ever done like touch healing, anything like that, what you're doing is you're moving intention with a specific color. You're moving your blood flow through the body and using that as a channel, pretty much. What this is doing is this isn't coming, from outside of you and you're directing it. Well, unless you're connecting into source and doing that type of energy work, which honestly I don't prefer, because there's no telling what can hijack that line. It's a really, really long line for something to tap into. And so when you're doing stuff like this, you're already moving energy, you're already moving chi. It's as simple as visualizing moving sunlight. It's as simple as seeing that your blood flow that you're moving through the body is now golden sunlight that you're moving through the body. And that's what you're shifting, that's what you're moving, and that's what's happening. And so when you can start taking breaths into your body and you can fill yourself completely up and totally with golden sunlight, you are prepping yourself for the golden body. I'll tell you right now, I have not achieved it because, I am still, I can't phase through walls. I can't bilocate. I can't walk on water yet, but I'm working towards this. And this is the things that we're starting to see abilities that come from this. Like, well, let's just kind of break this down on like the levels of magic right here. The first level of magic, it's like if you need symbolism, if you need ritual, if you need something to evoke that energy. The second level of magic, it's kind of what me and Brad are doing. We're using the chi flow, the movement of the body to do gestures to, move the energy around. The third level of magic is where you are in a state of being and you interact with your reality, and if there's anything that is outside of what you prefer, you can immediately move it out of your reality. And so if there's something inside of your reality that you wish to do, turn water into wine, walk on water, something like that, it's nothing more than a state of being and a shift in the thought. And this is the golden Christ consciousness energy body right there. I'm not there yet. I've gotten to the point to where I'm getting close to being able to interact with things without having to move the chi around it. But it's something that it's a lifetime's worth of practice. But when you're planning on being immortal, who cares about a lifetime's worth of practice? You could have 50 of them. So
yeah, exactly. Well, there's a fellow as well too who is just really great at sharing all this information on YouTube. Goes by the name of Mantak Chia, and he really talks about his own experiences with his own immortal body. So it's really all about compassion. You're putting compassion and love into everything. You're putting this love and compassion into all of your organs, and you're transferring it to the immortal body. You're putting all of this together and you're transferring it to the immortal body. And it's a constant thing. You have to do it like every single day. And basically when people start sending you this love because you're doing some unconditional service, you're transferring that to the immortal body. So you're basically just doing that as much as you possibly can so that this body can grow, like how you're nurturing a baby in that way. I'm actually starting to notice some very interesting things because using astral technology, I'm actually starting to feel that the lower Dan Qian just last night felt like it's kind of like how your bladder's full when you have to really pee, right? That's kind of the sensation I was going through with the lower Dan Qian, and being able to do the fusion of the 5 elements. You basically have these 4 pakwas that are, again, in my own way, filtered through astral technology. And they're basically spiraling clockwise energy into the center of the Dan Qian, or the cauldron, as they call it. And once that comes online through the astral technology that I program, oh my God, is it powerful? It feels like your just whole lower abdomen is just full, like after a good meal, right? So this is something, again, that's, I'm starting to notice those transformations taking place. And I think as you do this more and more, doing especially on a daily basis, you'll start feeling your Dantian centers just activating and feeling so full of energy. And you may just notice that, actually what I've noticed as well too is doing healing, there's much more of an intense heat coming out of the hands. The hands are way more intense, and visualization actually picks up a lot more as well too. So you can actually see the stream of energy. And it's kind of funny when I have the Harnessing the Force poster created, where there's that stream of energy out the hands. That's exactly what I've seen. And so that's almost like a literal context in that way. So really just seeing how you start working with the golden centers and the golden body of light, you're going to see these amazing features come together once you start working with it a lot more.
Oh yeah, it's not even so when I feel like the fullness of the Dantian, it's not even like I have to pee. It's like all of a sudden the energy center, it reaches, so it's like filling up, and then it like starts to get to this point to where it starts shifting outside, and then it radiates. It literally turns into a sun. And when you connect these through the pranic tube from the crown to the perineum and inside of that internal microcosmic orbit, it's phenomenal. I mean, it is one of the most ecstatic, amazing feelings that you can have in a physical body. It is literally lighting yourself up into the cosmos primordial fire. And it's the creation, it's the source that's inside of everybody. And instead of being filtered through filter after filter after filter after filter, you're getting a direct main line to it, and you're pumping that energy into the reality around you, which is this parasitic construct infected reality with all kinds of damage. And it's amazing work that anybody who starts doing this can do. All you have to do is focus internally on yourself, develop yourself inside, and you literally shift the reality around you because of it. It's an amazing thing. There's no telling what it feels like until you experience it.
Yeah,
you know?
it's really just like looking into the internal of the sun in that way.
Yeah.
Because that's just my feeling. Like when I get it, it just feels like you have a bloated bladder in that way. But when you actually turn inwards, you feel this radiance of light, and it's pure and powerful. But we'll move on. We got some more questions here. Another Eric. This is a person actually I've done some sessions with. He says, according to Adronis. And Eric, it's Adronis, not Andronis. And I get that so much. People say, oh, it's Andron. I don't know where they get the other N from. It's so weird. It's Adronis. So Eric Rett asks, according to Adronis, I've had up to 33 implants. I believe most or all are gone now. Did I hear you say in the beginning that the process of removal or implantation is ongoing?
Oh, yeah. Oh yeah, it never stops until we can actually kick these things out of our planet. They're going to keep on doing what they're doing until their time is over.
You got it, exactly. All right, here's one from Ryan. Ryan says, my friend next to me had 3 nasty sores on his left arm, triangle-shaped left wrist in line with the thumb and about 1.5 inches across. Appeared overnight, nearly healed, left nasty scar. Doctor stumped. Any thoughts?
Well, it definitely could be some type of an etheric implantation type of a scenario. Honestly, that doesn't ring true for me. If anything, it feels like there might be some physicality going on. He might have had a eating type of a bacteria. You know, and things like that do pop up. And so everything is not nefarious. Everything is not, 100% right away. We got to go and look at this. But triangular shaped scars that pop up out of nowhere, that's awfully suspicious to me.
Sometimes it can be almost like genetic manipulation in that way, because sometimes you have beings, maybe like the Zaytans or the Greys, that will pop in, start doing these kind of experimentations and notice that you're coming together and you're noticing this dysfunction in your arm. But again, all of that is, of course, reversible in that way. But this is what I've noticed as well, too, from testimonies from others as well, too, who have been on board ships. And sometimes they see that their arm puffs up, or they may have problems with their abdomen or digestion as well, too. So they basically have side effects from a lot of these genetic programs.
Definitely.
All right, well, that's something we'll look into. Maybe we'd have to look at some pictures, Ryan, if you do have some. Maybe you can always send them my way or Eric's way. Here's one from SM. I can't even pronounce the name. But they write, hi, Eric. If you have implants at the time of ascension, will that keep you in the 3D, or can you make the transition to 5D if you have implants at the time of ascension?
So at the time of ascension, what's going to be happening is we are going to be having a pulse from the galactic central core that is going to be traveling through the electric universe filaments all the way to our sun. Our sun is not just a burning ball of hydrogen. Our sun is a transformer. It is a celestial consciousness that's just as conscious as you as I am. And what's going to be happening when this happens, it's not even going to be capable until we are at a specific level of vibratory resonance. So the energy that's coming from the sun, it's on a gradual ramping up. And so what this is doing is this is bringing these programs, these systems, these etheric implantation and these manipulation systems right directly to the surface, that way we can all see them, because we can't get rid of these until we are actually the ones consciously doing it, because they have hijacked the collective consciousness. And so that's why this work is so important. That's why this internal energetic hygiene is so important for us to be doing, because it is not just something that is affecting us. It is something that is affecting the world. And we need to bring our level of consciousness to a specific place to where we can even reach to that energy. So think about like two metal rods that are pumping electricity into them. And as you bring them closer, the potential for that ionic discharge to jump out and leap to the other one, it gets closer and closer and closer. And that's what we're doing, is we are bringing our consciousness to this level, higher and higher and higher and higher. And once we get to that point, that energy is going to be something that we can actually access to begin with. And that's when the flash, that's when the ascension event's going to happen. And when that does happen, it's going to be so high vibratory that none of these things are even going to be able to be around. It is literally everybody on the planet who is going to be going through an extreme energetic explosion of awareness to even, I don't care how shut off, how dulled, how, incompatible with energy flow you are, this is going to be something that opens all of that up. And so that's why this work is so important, because you don't want to be caught by surprise with this. You don't want to have to go through 10 years worth of work in about 5 seconds. It's going to be overwhelming.
And that kind of explains a lot of the people that are going through these shock periods, right? Where they just feel they're being overwhelmed by emotions and they don't know why. Why is this happening? It's because this effect is so grandiose, right? It's just so large that it's going to start just unpeeling you from the inside. And you're just all of a sudden, in a state of worry, or you're in a state of shock, or you're in a state of great sadness or great sorrow, great anger, and you don't know why. And so this is it. I mean, this is, if you don't get yourself organized, it's kind of like at a roller coaster ride. People can expect to be on a roller coaster and they're hooting and hollering and they're having an exciting time, or they get on this roller coaster, realize they're on, say, get me off, for God's sakes, get me off, I don't want to handle this ride anymore, right? And it's just like they go into this severe state of shock. So it is like an ultimate thrill ride. People who in that sense can enjoy it, or people who are just scared to death of it, but nonetheless they're going to experience it.
Yep.
Exactly. So this is what I remind everybody: people, get your inner work done, right? People who've been studying this a long time, the drill. We've been talking about this. I've been doing this since 2008. Eric, and you've probably been doing it longer than I have, and we just know that we're working on ourselves. We're making the inner journey possible. And this is why there has been such a ringing of the bell, a whistle blowing, saying you guys have to just get yourself organized, get your life together, start working on your emotions. So when something like the event comes together, a sequence that's taking place, you're not caught off guard. You're being able to work upon yourself, and it won't be such an intense experience. It'll be intense, but much more in a positive light because of all the work you're doing on yourself. So this is definitely what people like Eric and myself and others are reminding all of us to do, is just get yourself organized, work on your inner world, and make that a part of the outer reality, because the outer reality is just a projection screen.
Exactly.
All right, so let's move on here to Emma. Emma says, when a malevolent entity or implant is removed, where does it go?
So it depends on who's removing it. I've heard of all kinds of different techniques. There are people who create an incredibly bright, high vibratory resonance field that they immerse the entity inside of it, and then they watch it dissolve away. I personally don't feel that is very effective. It takes way too much energy for me to create that type of a resonance and then hold this thing that's trying to kick and scream and, pull its way out, and just sit there and, I don't want to be a part of that. I don't want to hold things underwater and watch them drown, like I open up connections to source. I open up a direct portal to whatever you want to call source. I use the central sun as that's my excuse to, connect into source energy right there. That's an incredibly high vibratory, powerful physical thing that is here inside of our galaxy, and so you can connect directly with the galactic pleroma, the galactic consciousness, and you can send things directly to it. I always give things about anywhere from 3 to 5 seconds to choose, because it's like, hey, why are you stealing from us? Look how powerful we are. You can do this too. Just transform, accept the energy in and convert to it. And so I always give things a chance to choose, but I don't give them very long.
It's kind of like what you have in magic as well too. You have banishment rituals, right? So some people will just cast them into light, right, and or essential sun, or into smoke, or something of that particular nature. It's kind of just making sure you're clearing your space, because a lot of these particular types of implants are AI, or they can just be codes in that way, thought form technologies, etc. as well too. Sometimes they can even be astro parasites coming in, almost like a type of Lyme disease. In that way. So basically you can create, again, these aspects of banishing that energy as well. So good question, Emma. Thank you very much for that. We have another question here on YouTube. This is from Tito Escapades. She asks, is there a way to cool the body down using Qi? I have no access to cool air in a hot place, and everything seems draining.
Triple heater meridians. They start right here in the ring fingers right here. What you can do is you can either use the thumb, or you can grab a hold of it and you can flow the Qi up the whole entire triple heater meridian. So the way that the triple heater meridian works, it's the only organ meridian that doesn't actually have an organ that it's attached to. It's the way that we share blood between the chest, the upper, and the lower abdomen. And so that temperature regulation right there, you can actually, it's really surprising how quickly you can get to the point to where it's either, you're too hot or too cold just by doing things the wrong direction. Then you kind of have to reverse it, and you're like, oh wow, I'm kind of chilly here. Okay, let's heat this up a little. And so it's all about just recognizing that you can flow Qi through the triple heater meridian, and you can open it up and make sure that it's nice and cleansed and open. Because what happens is we actually more often than not, it's the chambers inside of the lower and the upper abdomen that get closed off, and that happens due to most often because we all are chest breathers. Naturally in our system, we're designed to, we see is when the belly's starting to get a gut, you start sucking it in, you pull the abs in, you don't let anybody see that you got a gut, and that's nothing but chest breathing right there. And so that actually messes with the triple heater meridian more than anything, and so just by opening that up, by using deep abdominal breath, it's really an easy way to actually regulate temperature. It's pretty cool how quick it
works. That is very, very good as well. There's another technique that I've also discovered as well too, is working with yin energy a lot more, because it is much more of a cooling energy. One particular technique I've discovered is actually using the microcosmic orbit. You're opening up your perineum center and you're creating a cool yin pearl, and you're actually just circulating it through the microcosmic orbit. And you just do it a couple of times until you feel that your body is nice and cool. You're not overdoing it in that sense, because it's good making sure that you don't overdo yin energy in the body, but you're just doing it enough times to feel that you're pretty cooled down. And if you feel you do it too much, put some yang energy in as well too, and just start circulating against the microcosmic orbit as well too. But definitely using the triple heater is, I'd say, much more the easier way.
Well, that's a really good technique, actually. I'm going to have to try that the next time.
It just spontaneously came to me, so yeah, it happens. Here's one here from Daniel. Daniel says, I'm feeling sound more precisely than never before in my entire life. Do you know how the sound affects our brain? And if it exists, if techniques exist to balance our brain after being exposed to low frequency sounds? Have you heard about fragmented mind through sound?
Yeah, fragmented mind through sound is actually, so it's not even extremely low vibratory or extremely low frequency sound. It is actually etheric pulsing that is coded inside of the scalar frequency, and it's using the plasma and the scalar frequencies almost like a speaker, like a directed speaker. And so this right here, it's really, so I've only come into contact with this maybe about 15 or 16 different times. This is like a targeted individual thing, because more often than not, there's physical technology that's behind this. And like it is a, like multiple personality schizophrenia, that is a symptom of, not every case of schizophrenia or multiple personality is a symptom of these technologies, but those are the symptoms that they actually produce right there. And so it can fracture the mind into, almost like a Manchurian Candidate type of a thing, but it's more on an energetic nature. You get somebody to go into a crowd of people and just dwell in extreme rage or depression or sadness, and it will they'll come out of that and not even recognize the energetic chaos that they've created from that, and like it's a very disorienting, nonsensical way that the body is tossed into this type of fragmentation right there. One of the easiest ways to open this up is we have different frequencies that our body is able to use. And when on the molecular scale, when you're looking at the way that the molecular conductivity inside the body is actually working, you can see like these jangling discordant notes. And so a simple, just like a golden tone, what is the frequency I try to use? So if we had a bunch of like harps and cellos and angelic singing and stuff like that, and we give it an energetic aspect, that's the kind of feel that I pull through people. And it immediately opens up a sense of almost like a bubble inside of them that is then everything is easily able to transmit through. And as soon as you can transmit things through and there's no blockage in the signal, stuff like that almost immediately disappears. And so it's one of those things that it's pretty rare, but yeah, it does happen. And so what you want to really focus on is just holding on to source energy and holding on to source sound. Source sound is a bit harder to decode and understand, but you know, just holding on to like tones like and you know, things like that where you're toning inside your body, that's a really good way to send tones through the molecular structure itself. So hope that
That's
helps.
good. Yeah, absolutely. And sound is a very powerful device that we can use as well too. Just using simplicity as well too. Even affirmations, chants in that way too can really help you in many different ways if you're having any issues, especially with implants. Here's one from tuning forks. Yeah, speaking of that, I got got a couple of them right here. So
tuning forks are
they work great.
Tool. I was actually playing around with like time space with those one time, and I was like actually tapping into people walking around us. It was really interesting.
Wow, awesome. Here's one from Jose. He says, "Hi guys, what is Eric's take on clearing one's family lineage from this lifetime and or other parallel ones? Many blessings for all you do."
So yes, this is one of the strongest things that you can do for your family actually, because you cannot work on, well, you can work on people without their permission, but this, because they're not inside of people with free will, so you don't need their free will to remove them. But if people don't know what's happening, if you are not letting people know what is going on and what they need to do with the energetic hygiene afterwards, you can set people up for all kinds of crazy behavior. This right here, the DNA lineage, it is your DNA, but it's their DNA. And so what you're doing is, you know, just like, what is that, the biblical thing? Sins of the father become the sins of the son. You know, this is an allegorical way of saying that there's DNA dysfunction that can be put inside of a family lineage, and it replicates itself until the cycle is broken, until the cycle is stopped. And so what you want to do is recognize the physical problems, the emotional problems, the energetic problems that are coming from the DNA dysfunction, and then figuring out how to clean that out right there. Now, I actually use a golden theta state technique to do this type of work right here, and that's going directly into the internal space, finding the DNA lineage, which it's a lot harder than it sounds. You know, it's easier said than done with that one. And finding the actual DNA lineage and the resonance of the DNA, and then seeing how it goes out, because our DNA is multidimensional, and we're getting information coded directly from, I believe, the middle of the 10th dimension, where the pure DNA tones are actually coming from. And so all the way down, there's incursions that have happened on multiple times, and it's all about taking that connection and radiating that antenna all the way up to source consciousness and bringing the energy down through the DNA. Once you do that, it's amazing what you see happen in your family. They don't really even notice it either, yet all of a sudden they start to be healthier, happier, and more complete whole people. And that's simply because of the DNA work that you specifically were doing right there, because the DNA, it doesn't matter if it is in you or if it's in, you know, a generation like, you know, 10 or 15 generations removed, you're still changing the DNA for that person 10, 15 generations removed. And so, you know, it's really interesting the way that works right there, just the amount of work that you can do in that. And then we're all part of the same human DNA blueprint as well. So when you start doing stuff like this, you're helping all of humanity. It's a really powerful modality.
You got it. Exactly. And this correlates exactly with what Adronis has said, because people have asked him about that and saying, well, how do I clear my family lineage? He says, doing your own inner work into your own life essence is actually helping your family, because you have their own prenatal chi within yourself. It is a combining of your parents, your grandparents, your great-great-grandparents, etc. And it goes down that lineage. As you clear yourself, you're clearing their DNA, and they will, in some type voyeuristically, experience that in a way as well too. They may not fully get the full concept of the liberation that you're feeling, but they'll know that there will be some type of parallel aspect to themselves that is actually clearing up as well too. So the work you do on yourself is what's affecting your chain, kind of like your blockchain of lineages throughout the DNA as well too. So great confirmation there as well. Excellent. Well, thank you so much there for the question. Ryan asks, current energetic update, please, Eric. Is there an energetic update that you can share?
Oh man, that Lionsgate! Holy crap! Okay, so this Lionsgate
it was intense. Yeah.
happened. We actually Sunday for the retreat that we're having at the end of the month here, and I'm going to be taking people through multiple modalities, multiple energetic modalities, physical modalities, and it's going to be really, really interesting. And what we have been doing is really diving into these techniques on a much, much deeper level. That way we can understand them and teach them effectively. And we did the trauma release exercises last night we started at about 10 o'clock, and at maybe 12:15, I was finally done. And the energy that I was able to tap into from all of this was absolutely insane. So hold on, let me get a lock on all of this that happened. So when we say Lionsgate, this is no joke. There is a gate that has been opened, and there are many, many lion beings out there. I don't know what they're called. I've heard people call.
Adronis refers to them as the Nobans. Yeah.
Nobans. I've heard them called that. I've heard them called Lyrans. I've heard them called all kinds of different things. Long story short, they're a feline race that they have very cat-like heavy features, and they are brilliant gold. Their energy is just incredibly bright. And they came bursting through this gate last night on a level like I've never seen before. Like, I mean, it was, they aren't activated yet. They are, but they have a foothold here. And this is the thing. They are one of the races that is holding space for humanity as we go through these upgrades, as we go through these understandings and unfolding of awareness. And so what they are waiting for, it's like kind of like what I was talking about. We have to reach this level for that, that flash to come down and actually reach for us. They're reaching down, we got to reach up. It's kind of like along that level, but they're a stepping stone. And so we'll be going through multiple activations on a collective level before the actual ascension events. It's not going to be an all or nothing shot, and it's going to be like a gradual stepping up until, well, once you realize the step up's all the way here, and that gradual stepping's only getting us right here, and then boom, and so like it is a massive understanding of the collective consciousness that is being opened up right now. People are becoming much more aware of these systems and understanding how they are working without even knowing that they're working. They're recognizing that, well, why am I feeling so awful inside? I don't want to do this anymore. I want to be happy. I want to feel happiness. I want to feel joy. And they're stuck inside of all of these things, and the situation hasn't changed yet. The internal world is changing. And this is something that is massively coming through right now, is the internal world that people are starting to take notice of. Because, hey, let's face it, for all you know, I'm a figment of your imagination. I might be some coma dream. The only thing that for a fact is real is you. And so that's why this matters so much, is to do the internal work, because the internal universe literally reflects into the outside. And it's our collective understanding of what our reality is programmed into that is even keeping it this way. So, and it's a major step forward.
Absolutely. And that's what, again, is also being shared from Adronis and myself and quite a lot of others, is the idea that you're not even really looking at another person. They represent a holographic figment of yourself, a catalyst in that way. You're creating that version of that person because that person has something to tell you. It's a perspective that you need to hear. Maybe it's someone who may be hostile and belligerent, or someone who's loving and forgiving. It's all just these different increments of diversity happening within yourself that's actually telling you this is the type of person that you attract at this moment because of what you're going through in that way. So again, very good point with that. Charisse asks, Eric, what do you say to mainstream when it asks you what to do?
What do I say to mainstream when it asks me what to do? Okay, so
pretty interesting question.
Mainstream does not understand chi flow. So you have to come down to something that you can actually talk about here in the head with psychology or, emotional understanding and resonance, because they understand that quite well. And so it simply comes to the fact that, what do you want to feel like? Nobody likes being upset. Nobody likes being, angry, confrontational. They might get caught up in the moment, but nobody likes this. We all want to feel happy. We all want to have a good time, you know? And I mean, this is why we've got, you know, the entertainment industries are so big, is because we want a release from the craziness that's happening around us to actually just take a break and feel good, feel happy. And so we have all kinds of programs that are in place for that. And so one of the easiest things that you can do for people who don't understand the energies and the way that these things are working is just to really bring it down to simple things like, well, do you want to feel happy or do you want to feel sad? Okay, well, if you want to feel happy, then why are you looking for things that put a on your face? You know, look for things that put a smile on your face and start actively looking into that, because it's the neuroplasticity that is in every single last person on the planet is an amazing thing to actually use, because you can train yourself to do anything. You can, with the repetition, with the dedication, you can literally become a master at anything, anytime, anywhen. All it takes is time and practice. And so the more that you are inside your body saying, oh, let's shut that down, I recognize that this is going on, I'm not going to engage on it on that level. I want to find things that happen that make me smile. I want to see the good in the world, and more importantly, I want to create good in the world, because I need to be the change that I want to see. Otherwise, who else is going to do it? You know, and when you break it down on these levels right here to, you know, stop listening to your head, just go into a space of silence every once in a while and just really start to connect to the emotions that you truly want inside of you. People understand that, people get that. And so you don't have to, like, you know, well, oh, etheric implants, aliens, woo, you know, you don't have to do stuff like that.
Yeah.
You can bring it down to something much simpler that people understand. And when you start actually implementing these things, the energy starts to become much more high vibration, and you start to feel these things anyway. You know, everybody has the same blueprint. You know, we've all got the same bones, all the same muscles, all the same organs. We just have different personalities and different body shapes that are, and different metabolisms that are in that body itself, but they are all core structurally the same. We all can do these abilities. We can all do these things. All we have to do is just tap into it. And so by stepping into a clean emotional space and taking responsibility for your thoughts, actions, and emotions, you start to become energetically vibrant, and you'll tap into these things regardless.
Exactly. Very good. So we're going to probably take about 2 more questions before we wrap everything up. We have one here from Josie, and Josie asks, what if you are or were not raised by your birth family? Do you have to clear 2 types of lineages, one you know and another that you don't?
That's a really good question. I've never actually thought about that before. Let me tune into this here. Okay, so by accepting a parental contract and by bringing you in as their child, what they are doing is actually it's not just their DNA, but it is now somewhat yours by proxy. They are giving you the resonance, the vibration of their DNA lineage right there. And so you are picking that up. And so this is one of the reasons why we can have people who are born on a completely different side of the planet from where they were with their family, and they can pick up, you know, addictions and heart disease and stuff like that from the family that they were born inside of. Yet they can still have habits from the actual birth parents. They just won't know where they came from. They won't understand why they are you know, kind of happening right there. But it's one of those things that you have kind of a crossover right there. So yeah, 100%, 2 of them.
Mm-hmm. Great, excellent. That's also my feeling as well too, is that you'll residually work with them as well too, because even though it may be somewhat of an estranged DNA to yourself, it'll still have some type of proxy effect, as you have some type of association within their agreements as guardians, and so they'll have some type of residual effect in that way as well too. Great, excellent. So we're going to end with one more question here, and this is on YouTube. It's from Turak. He asks, what about positive implants that we might have for different important purposes? What about them in regards to?
So, okay, so positive implants. So the whole reason implants are even here to begin with is because back when we had the galactic wars, you know, however long that was ago, we had planets where they were creating positive etheric tech, and it wasn't just like ascension timeline tech. These guys were already ascended. They were using these things to really supercharge themselves and reach higher and higher levels and states of understanding, just like with what Brad's doing here with like the Pakwa and like the etheric, the astral, what'd you call them? Astral constructs? That
the astro technology, yeah. This is also what they use in intervention fleets as well too, as the positive implants as well.
Yeah. And so what happened was the planet got taken over, and this information, this technology right here, it was hijacked and it was turned dark. Anything has a polarity right now, and you can literally turn a negative implant inside the body into a positive one. Not all of them do this. It's actually a small percent. It's about maybe 10 to 15%. But every single thing that I remove out of myself, out of other people, I always give the opportunity to transmute itself first. And I only give it a little bit of time, because honestly, it's like I'm not very patient with these things. It's like I have a job to do and you got to go, so figure it out. You can stay, but there's only one way you're going to stay here. So, and like, so that's one of the things that I do is I actually try to transmute things into positive implants, because what they do is the exact opposite of these negative ones, where the negative ones, they put the kink in the hose. These things make the hose bigger. Where the other ones will bring the vibratory resonance down, make things heavy and make things stagnant and toxic. This will lift up the vibration, make it much higher vibration and incredibly bright and clean inside the area and with no toxicity. And so positive implants are actually an amazing thing. They aren't as anywhere near as common as the negative ones, because you have to reach a certain energetic resonance in order to even get to the point to where you can activate these types of things. But just like with what Brad is talking about, we have intervention fleets. They can actually come in, clean you out, and then put something in that's much more high vibrational and resonant in the body and makes things much more clean. So they are definitely 100% here, and they're amazing tools.
It's absolutely, yeah. And again, that's with the intervention fleets. Also, for those who have not seen the video yet, you can go to my YouTube channel, just type in Adronis intervention fleets. And there's a good symbol that I was doing earlier on the broadcast. It's just with your left hand and with your right hand, creating a triangle, just like this. So it's kind of like you have a triangle with a long slash down the right side. So kind of like that. That is a sign for intervention. So if you feel that you're maybe overwhelmed, or you feel that you have some of these implants and you're not too sure what to do, ask for intervention assistance. And again, I've had a lot of people email me and said they've had extraterrestrial technology visits overnight. Sometimes it'll appear in their dream state. Sometimes it'll appear in physical reality. They'll actually have these lights coming in. They'll have a probe coming in. It's kind of like looking at Close Encounters of the Third Kind, or any other kind of cool sci-fi movie where they're just seeing this scan, and they actually scan your body and say, oh, okay, we found something. That's not supposed to be there. And so they will basically do this, but they're not here to be your buddies. And this is something that they was like, can we like talk to them? Can I like interact? I said, no. These are like tech support agents, right? It's kind of like you're calling up that 1-800 number and saying, can you fix my computer? Hey, I really like what you're doing. Hey, let's go for a coffee. No, sir, I'm sorry, I can't do that. We're a tech support agent, right? That's basically what the intervention fleets are like, is that they're just here to do a hands-off policy. They will come in, they will scan your body. If something is not meant to be there, they will remove it for you. But it's not saying that you're completely out of the woods, right? You still have a lot of inner work to do, but they are basically removing this kink of the hose. So if there's a clamp on that hose, they'll take that clamp off, but you still have to do the work with that hose in that particular way. So they're not saviors in that way, but they are lending a helping hand in that way. So again, that would be the symbol as it relates to the intervention fleets.
I would definitely like to expand on that. Implant removal is not going to save you. You have to do your own inner work. So one of the things that people ask me is like, will this come back? And it's like, well, if you keep yourself in a low vibratory state, yes, you are making a perfect environment for them to come back. I can't say yes or no. It's based on your own free will. I can clean you off, but if you go and jump right back into the swamp, what's the point of me even doing the work for you?
Yeah.
And it's all about cleansing the internal trauma, cleansing the internal issues, the emotional problems, and cleaning yourself out so there's no blockage whatsoever.
You got it, exactly. And that's what I tell people even when doing light circuitry attunements as well too. I said the effect that you make for this to actually be permanent is living through the vibration that you're feeling right now. It is not just going to do everything for you, because it's the aspect of an effect. An effect in that sense is not going to run your life. It's something that you can tune into. And if you want to stay attuned into that effect, then that effect will continue to broaden, expand, and evolve itself through you. You have to do the work. This isn't about it. This is the sloucher's job, right? This is something that you have to really remember to do inside yourself. So I want to thank everybody for some really incredible questions tonight. There's one more question here from the other Eric. He just said this kind of interesting way. He says, I'm jealous hearing all of the abilities that you guys have. Is it probable that all of my abilities were severed because of the implants? Guys, here's what I want to say. You're never severed from source, right? It's not about that. You have kinks, you have clamps, you have all these certain things in that sense. Nothing can ever truly disconnect you. It's kind of like just being in a realm of fog in that way. You're helping yourself to clear yourself, to work upon yourself. Eric and I do this work because this is who we are. You know, this is something that drives us. This is what we want to do because it is our love work, and it's all about just making that your love work as well too. Eric, anything you want to add on that response?
No, that's it right there. You know, we're not special. You know, we're not, you know, Superman. We're not, you know, gurus or anything like that. What we have done is figure out the way that the body sensation is truly real inside and how it interacts with the world around us. And all we've done is open up these clamps, opened up these kinks in the hose, and opened up the energy and allowed it to flow. And what happens is a natural evolutionary progression of one step to the next, to the next, to the next. You know, once you realize you can move your chi around in the body, it's like you've been reborn. And, you know, brand new babies, what do? They don't even know they have hands until, you know, they poke themselves in the eye and they're like, oh, what is this?
Yep,
Oh, it moves, you know,
Yep.
what is that?
Yeah, exactly.
You know, and you just
You'll
take
fall
that
many
awareness
times.
and you keep moving forward. You know?
Yeah, that's the whole idea, is not being afraid to fall. Believe me, guys, I've fallen many times. I've tripped on many different things. Like, basically, you could say I'm probably one of the worst guys to handle relationships, you know, because a lot of them have blown up in my face in the past. That's simply because I'm learning more about solitude, because that's where I feel the most happy. But, you know, we all fall in the dirt. We all trip over our own feet. And that's just all part of a process of learning. So don't feel down on yourself and saying, well, these guys got it all together. We don't have it all together. We had to go through a lot of personal trial and error ourselves to get where we're going. We are not in any way perfect beings in that way. So there's a lot of stuff that you have the ability to do as well too. What we're doing here, anybody can do. And that's why we're here on this broadcast, letting you guys know if we can do this, you guys can do it as well too.
Well, I don't fail anymore, you know, because failure is just a word. I either win or I learn. And if I have to learn 1,000,000 times, that million in first time, that's what I was going for. So I won.
You got it. There's only just attempt. It's all just about the idea of moving yourself up that ladder. Sometimes you'll trip over a stair, but that stair will always be there for you to climb over.
Yeah.
Well, Eric, thank you so much again for being a part of the webcast tonight. It was an exceptional show. Someone asks how long this will take for YouTube to get it on, probably about an hour or two. So check back then and you'll get a review of this broadcast tonight. Eric, what is your website again for people to get in touch with you?
Unleashing Natural Humanity, and my YouTube channel is Eric Pilgrim.
Unleashingnaturalhumanity.com. Right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, great. Well, Eric, thank you so much again for being on the broadcast. We'll definitely have you on again soon with the webcast. Have a great post-Lionsgate night where you are, and that's for everybody else. So thank you again for tuning into the webcast. Again, I'll be back in 2 weeks' time for the next Reality Whisperer webcast. And again, for more information, sessions, digital courses, etc., you can go to realitywhisperer.com. Thanks again, Eric. Take care.
You're very welcome.
And we'll talk to you guys soon.
I really enjoyed
Thank
it.
you so much. Take care, guys.
Bye-bye.